Welcome to Advertising Champions, your go-to destination for insights into the dynamic world of advertising and marketing. I'm your host, Tony Stanol, and today we welcome Richard Guha, who is president of Max Brand Equity. Welcome, Richard.
Hi, Tony. Thank you for having me on this conversation.
Now, you come from the marketing department side of things, right? For a lot of years, you've worked with some real blue chip companies. Tell us about your journey into the marketing world and what you're up to today.
Well, I'll try and be brief here. I started off life intending to be a chemical engineer, but one of the internships I did was with a very small TV production company in London, and I first got exposed to advertising, and then I actually interned in an ad agency in New York in 1969, Mad Men days. But decided I didn't want to be in advertising per se, but I regarded it always a very valuable tool. So I joined Procter & Gamble in brand management there. Went from Procter & Gamble to Mars, which had in many ways some very similar philosophies, but was family owned and had different ways of operating. And I've spent some time in consulting, in strategy consulting, and then moved into general management, but still with my focus being around the innovation, marketing, branding side of things. And so advertising, I believe, and I've seen, experienced, and done it, has actually influenced the way we view the world and what happens in the world. It isn't just innovate. You can build a better mousetrap, but you actually do have to tell people about it.
That's right, and you've probably worked with some top-notch agencies. I know Procter has a roster over the years, as does Mars, and now Mars Wrigley.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because obviously the very large agencies are multiple offices and very different kinds of people in them. They've generally been good, but the good can sometimes range to spectacular. At the same time, I've also worked with some smaller ad agencies which have done superb work, where you have, it's the cliche about the creative agency, and creative agencies can be dangerous from a marketer's point of view because they can be difficult to control, as I'm sure you know. But at the same time, I've had great experience with the Y&R London office, wonderful experience with J. Walter Thompson in Chicago, but also fantastic experiences with Margiotti Fertitta, as was in New York when we created and introduced broadband to the population in 1997. I'm never totally fixated on a big agency. While you may have depth there, it's always worth looking at the really skilled and professional smaller agencies.
Interesting. That seems to be the theme for a couple of our podcasts today. But now tell me, Richard, what types of clients or industries do you get involved with these days?
Well, these days, typically, I focus on innovation. So I'm working with companies, both large, sometimes small companies such as startups. And I work with quite a number of startups. In fact, over the years, I've worked with startups for about 30 odd years and probably worked with about 2,000 startups, many of whom have been very successful and had exits. But I also work for some larger companies, Fortune 500 or the equivalent for a foreign company. It's around innovation. And innovation is, I believe, again, the lifeblood of what we do. And what we must do with innovation is part of that is to figure out how to communicate what we're doing. The interesting thing is the better mousetrap idea, which everyone goes, build a better mousetrap. And there's a Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think, who said, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. Yet the reality is the spring-loaded mousetrap we see in Tom and Jerry cartoons was patented in the US patent in 1878. And since then, there've been over 4,000 patents for, quote, better mousetraps, and not a single one of them has succeeded. A number of reasons. One is the spring-loaded mousetraps works really well and is cheap to make. The other thing, people haven't done a very good job of communicating, advertising is not brainwashing. Advertising is communicating what's happening. And I learned that at Procter & Gamble. I learn it every day, that if you can't communicate, I learn it working with small startups, whether communicating in very small groups, perhaps, or two very small, narrow target groups. If you can't communicate / advertise effectively, your wonderful product is likely to fail.
Very good. Well, from the master marketer to your ears out there, folks. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
And thank you for tuning into this episode of Advertising Champions. For further information, be sure to visit dailynewsnetwork.com. Stay inspired.
We've been around for 16 years, working with clients, with thousands of clients. We're working with agencies to be able to scale them and grow them and provide them services that would cost them way more than it would for them to do it themselves. Anything oriented around lead generation, video creation, web design, we're full service, so we can really serve most people.